welcome to the Monday edition of the Wellness Movement. I am your host, Julie, with Balance Life with Julie, and you are watching Spanglish World and her network on Zingo TV channels 250 and 251. Remember to download the Zingo TV app on your app store. Leave a review. Remember, it's free. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire and Fire Sticks, Roku and Roku Sticks, on all smart TVs from 2016 forward. So today I have my special guest is Michelle LaBrosse, also known as Vegan Boss LaBrosse. She is a fellow holistic nutritionist. She is a certified personal trainer who can definitely kick your ass if you're into that. She comes from the martial arts world, and she has lots of many talents. So we're going to talk about meditation, but how about you just, say hello to the good folks out there?
Yeah. Well, hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Julie, for this wonderful introduction. Of course, Julie's also a partner in crime. Love her to death. So super happy to be somewhat interviewed and have this wonderful conversation with her. As she mentioned, I am a personal trainer. I'm a holistic nutritionist and just an overall mindset coach. I focus a lot on movement, wellness, and mindset and meditation. Those are key because, everything that have to do with a holistic practice, which means connecting your mind, body, and soul.
Yeah, and I should also mention we met doing one of our favorite, I wouldn't say favorite, I think we'd love to not have to do this on our off hours, but we're both animal rights activists as well. That's how we met. That's how our paths crossed.
Yeah.
And so yeah, actually.
And actually, it's quite interesting because we have so much in common. Meeting Julie at an animal rights, I think, was the first time at Fearman's, or is it in a march? I think the first time was at Fearman's, eh?
I think it was probably Fearman's. In fact, I have a memory of you in my head of you interviewing Regan, and I was at Fearman's with my sign. I think that was like the first time I ever saw you. I don't remember when you did that interview. So yeah. And then I think it took, because I was not as regular at Fearman's until, I guess the last year. So I would only show up once in a while. And then of course I became more of a regular player there.
Yeah, well, and for a lot of reasons, which I'm not sure if you want us to mention this here, but the day that you saw me interviewing Regan, that interview got so much attention worldwide because you said you didn't remember the date. I don't remember the exact date of that interview, but I know that it was cold enough outside that the camera shut off on its own after about 20 minutes, not even, because it was too cold. And shortly, I would say about 4 to 5 months later, on June 19th, is when she was killed in the same location. So definite downside of doing animal rights activism or just activism in general. There's always, things that are going to happen, but that was very unfortunate. And but that interview, I feel so grateful to have had the chance to interview her before that actually happened, right? Because we got to know so much of her during that interview. And I really wish it wasn't that cold and that it wouldn't have just shut down. But cold or warm or any conditions, we're out there speaking for those who don't have much of a voice that's being heard. I know today our subject is mindset and meditation, so we're definitely going to move away from that very, very sad and unfortunate conversation. But that is how we met. And then because of this, horrible event, a lot of activists came together and on a weekly basis to, make sure that we were giving her a proper honor and homage to all of the hard work that she had been putting in since 1979.
Yeah.
1979. How crazy is that? That was
That's
before
longer than you've been alive.
longer than I've been alive. Like that was that
Yeah.
was literally like 7 years before or 8 years before I was even born, and she was already doing activism. So she was an amazing peaceful warrior. Like she did great work. And for those of you that don't really know what we're talking about, if you just Google or YouTube Regan Russell, you'll see a lot of documentaries that have now been made in her honor and explaining kind of what happened and the whole circumstance, the whole very unfortunate circumstances.
Yeah, Regan is spelled Regan, and then Russell is SSL.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting because, like, I mean, we'll get off this subject soon, but I remember asking her about her activism and how long she'd been at it, and just thinking to myself, like, oh my God, to become an animal rights activist. And I mean, she wasn't exclusively animal rights. She marched for a lot of other causes. And did a lot of other protests as well. So it's not like people who are animal rights activists are exclusively animal rights activists. Like, we care about a lot of things that are going on in the world. But I just remember talking to her about how long she had been at it, and just thinking, like, oh my God, like, I'm sure in the 70s, people, that wasn't even a part of consciousness. There was no social media. There wasn't the kind of movement. Like right now, we have a global movement, and we have the ability to connect with activists all over the planet, which many of us are. We are connected with people in Europe and in Australia, and I had someone today from Africa reach out to me, and so it's amazing to have this. But I just wonder of her starting back then, when there were probably hardly any people who thought about animals or had any compassion for animals, and I'm sure they would have seen her as completely crazy,
Absolutely. And the thing is it's not even just that people weren't necessarily thinking about it, but if they were thinking about it, there was nowhere or no one they could share it to, right? Like, whereas now, you just mentioned, we have access to internet, we're able to connect with each other worldwide, so we don't feel so alone, because sometimes, we're such a minimal number that in communities you could feel very alone. And I remember one of the things that she said in the interview was, as soon as she had gotten wind of the seal hunt, and she was like, I had saw something on the news about the fact that they were hitting baby seals over the head, and she's like, I thought to myself, she made a sign right away, and she's like, I thought to myself, I'll go out there and everyone I'll talk to will agree with me. And then fast forward from that first time she stood out there with that sign in 1979 to today in 2021, and they're still doing that.
Yeah. So I think that the thing that I always admired about her was just the fact that she was willing to stick with it, right? Like, it takes a lot to continue to show up for all of these various injustices that are present in our world. It takes a lot to show up day after day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, decade after decade. And I would say in our activism, we're babies. We're like, we are at the toddler stage of activism. I'm only 2 years in of really being active. And yes, I've marched for events and things here and there, but I haven't been as committed as I am now to doing all I can, whether it's on social media or whether it's in real life. But I just think, like, that takes a very special soul to stick with it, no matter what.
100%, through good and bad. And like you've mentioned, like, it's definitely not all sunshine and butterflies in this area. Like we're standing up against all forms of injustice and against oppression in general for all beings. So, it doesn't take much to just look around and realize that, like, wow, we're being very exploitive and abusive in so many different ways. So, you never get to the end of it. So it is a daily thing that you have to work on. And, speaking of which, as animal rights activists, but as anyone on this planet, in the type of world that we live in, mindset and meditation are so important. Like yes. They are so important, and not just for your activists, for every possible person out there. It is so important for you to be able to connect with yourself, to connect to source, to bring back presence, and really just being in that present moment and being able to connect your mind to your body. Like, it's so important because there are so many external circumstances and things that are constantly stimulating us, right? Like, this is an ever stimulating world. Today, left and right, people are so distracted. So being able to tap into that mindfulness, and even like, it's a blessing to be able to sit down in a space and meditate, right? And to work, not even just meditation, which meditation of course has been proven to help rewire the neurons in your brain, to help you create new neural pathways, to help really calm and bring focus into your life and balance into your life. So like, meditation in itself is amazing, but even just mindset, right? Maybe not everyone has the chance to sit down for a few minutes or an hour or a few hours every day, but everyone has the chance for sure to either, while they're heading somewhere, or while they're in a transition time, to possibly listen to a podcast that's talking to you about how to help you with your own mind and mindset, and how to help you rewire, the conditioning that we've been put through our entire lives. So, I think just in general, addressing our mindset and really working hard on knowing that we're the creators of our reality, like, it is so key, so key.
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously like I have a big bias. Like, I'm a huge meditator. It's been a part of my daily practice since 2007.
Yeah.
I take very few days off. There's only been a handful of days here and there. Like, once was back in 2012, when right after my husband passed away. Like, it was just, my mind was so crazy that it was impossible to meditate. And so I kind of let my practice go for a couple of weeks. And then other than that, I don't miss a day. But I always tell people there's different ways to meditate. Like, if you don't have if you're not somebody who can just kind of sit still, you can go out for a walk in nature and just focus on your breath and look around. You can, as you're out there walking, you can have like a mantra or a phrase that you repeat in your head to kind of ground yourself. Like, there's so many different tools and techniques. But you and I both, like, did you start with Vipassana? Because I started with Vipassana.
I had a bit of meditation experience beforehand. Like, at the end of the day, let's really think about it. Like, what meditation means, or being in a meditative state, just means that you're aware, right? You're super aware and present and connected to yourself. So whether, like you just mentioned, that means you're out taking a walk and you're observing the reality around you, right? You're observing exactly how it is. And sometimes for some, they need to use a bit of the process of visualization or utilizing words and powerful mantras to stay present, right? The reason we give that option of repeating something to yourself, or looking at something, or listening to something, it's specifically so you're forced to stay present, to stay in the moment. Whereas though, like you said, Vipassana, for me, I started in 2015 was the first year that I went, and it was in Australia, and I had no idea what I was getting myself into. Although the partner that I had at the time was telling me, like, why are you doing this? Why are you going into a 10-day silent meditation course where you're not even allowed to look at people, where you're not talking to anyone, you're staying silent the entire time. And he was like, why are you forcing yourself to go through these techniques and to go through this suffering? And when I came back home after those 10 days, because I wondered, and I was like, well, why? It's because I need that experience for myself. Like, I need to force myself to be with myself for those 10 days. Like, I need to do it because, as you know me, and as you can already hear it right now, I've got a mouth on me, and I love to use it. So knowing that I was gonna have to shut up for 10 full days, I thought that was going to be the hardest part. I thought that was going to be the hardest part, Julie, and that was not even the hardest part.
I am only laughing because I've done Vipassana like 6 times, and I'm like wanting to go for my 7th time. And I also haven't been able to go since 2016. So I know the next time I go, it's going to be challenging. It's going to be challenging. And I'm just laughing because I've gone, so I know how it is. And, and I remember the first time I went, I actually was asking different people that I knew who had done Vipassana about what their experience was like. And then I think the 3rd or 4th person I asked, it dawned on me that it didn't matter because everyone's experience is unique. Yeah. And this is the same thing I went through when I was getting ready to go to my 14-day water fast, where I asked some people what their experience was like. And then I realized that I just needed to have my experience and have my mindset on point, because that's really what it is. You are like, I mean, honestly, I don't think, and it's interesting because I have one more requirement before I qualify for a 20-day. So it's like, you think you meet your mind doing a 10-day, like, holy shit, you're going to be meeting sections of your mind that you don't even understand exist doing a 20-day. But one of the most prolific writers, he's like a multi-New York Times bestseller. He does a 90-day Vipassana every single year. And he comes out and he writes these books that are, boom, like instantaneously bestsellers on the New York Times. So I feel what's happening for him is he is getting so connected to source that he is able to quiet all the insanity of the world. You know, it's interesting because we're obviously having this conversation online, and then this is going to get posted online. But it's having some discernment about where you put your attention in your day-to-day is a superpower. And you have to know when it's time to quiet the noise of the world and to go inward. And having that daily practice of some sort of mindfulness, whether it's Vipassana or mantra meditation or walking meditation or something to get you to not be, because reacting to everything around us, it's like you're a slave. You're a slave to everything around you. You don't know yourself. You cannot know yourself if you're pulled into Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and the news and whatever is going on out there. Like, you cannot know yourself if you're so scattered. It's
absolutely. Like, if basically you think that your reality is based because of everything that's happening externally, right? If you're constantly relying on what everyone else and everything else is telling you, then that's not your reality. That's everyone else's reality, right? So I think it's super powerful what you said about, because for myself, leading up to my first Vipassana, it came up 3 times randomly with 3 different people before I took it as a sign from the universe telling me, like, okay, you absolutely need to go sit through a Vipassana. This is the 3rd person telling you. And the 3rd person was in Australia, and they shared their experience, and they were master. They had done already multiple Vipassanas. Welcome, Bagheera, everyone, to the show.
Bagheera knows that I'm here, and he misses me, and I miss
absolutely. He hears your voice, and he's like, "Oh, I need to go hang out with them. They're so cool."
I want to hang out with you.
He's like, love me, Julie. But yeah, so basically the third time I heard that in Australia, I thought to myself, okay, that's it. Like the universe is talking to me. I absolutely need to go. And it's crazy because as you said though, right? It's at the end of the day, it all comes down to the law of impermanence. So, you know, I went for my first time, and my first time actually felt easier than any, like the last time that I went, the fourth one that I did was the hardest one. Like that was by far the hardest one. And I really, really struggled with my own mind. But because I was there to clear my mind, I also had so many amazing thoughts that were downloaded into my brain that I felt compelled to write them, but we're not supposed to write. Right? So you're supposed to basically abstain from writing, from reading, from exercising, like you're abstaining from any other distractions. Like when you check into the center, you check in your phone, you check in all of your stuff. Like all you need for those 10 days is clothes, right? That's all you need is clothes and your own body and mind, because everything is being served for you and there's no electronics. And you're not journaling, you're not singing, you're not doing any of those things. It's literally just you're there to abandon your mind and body to the Vipassana practice. And for me, the hardest part, Julie, was this sitting.
Oh.
So I thought that the silence was going to be the hardest part for me. And that was actually the easiest part. Not having to talk was excellent. It was like such an amazing change and like so relaxing for my throat chakra to just like shut up for a moment. It actually felt so good. And, but sitting for, you know, anywhere between 10 to 12-hour days of meditation, that was the hardest part for me. It was staying still during those meditations and not reacting to the different sensations that were arising in my body that at times were very painful.
Yeah.
But it just goes to really prove like the law of impermanence is crazy, right? That this too shall pass is like the foundational phrase. Basically, well, that and may all beings be happy. That's another one that SN Goenka says all the time. Mm-hmm. But this too shall pass. It just means that no matter what you're going through, at the end of the day, if you choose not to focus on it, you don't react towards it, right? And you remain equanimous, you remain neutral or objective. At the end of the day, everything arises and passes away, and our own life, right? So to actually sit there and observe all the biochemical reactions that are occurring in our body and that are usually there, it's just that we rarely sit to observe them, right? So to actually like connect with our body to that level is so impressive. And then some days you get an amazing vibrational, you know, meditation and you're like, oh my God, like I wish it was like this all the time. But that's exactly
craving.
That's exactly what you're trying to avoid, to add more cravings, right? You just have to accept that meditation was amazing and that's it. You don't want to create more craving because next thing you know, the next meditation, and you're going to feel pain all over your body. You're going to feel like the most awkward, uncomfortable sensations. And you're going to be like, if you generated that extra craving towards your last meditation, you'll be like, but what happened? Where's my last meditation? Like, I thought I was doing so good.
The root cause of human suffering is craving and aversion. So it's like there's things that we're trying to push away, and the more we try to push it away, the more it happens, the more suffering we create for ourselves, and the more we crave certain things, like, you know, whether it's, you know, yummy food or some experience or whatever it is, the more you crave it, the more you're causing your own suffering. So it's just learning to be present and to be with whatever is happening without attachment. And I think part of the reason that I've had the odd moment here and there where I've been, you know, genuinely annoyed with what's been going on the last 15 months. But for the most part, I have my meditation practice and I do my practice and I just get up every day and I do my day. And I'm like, okay, it's not going to last forever. this situation, as much as I hate it, is not going to last forever. But that, and I think that for people who don't have a mindfulness practice, who don't have that shift in consciousness, this has been a huge challenge because everything that is normal for them is gone.
Yeah.
You know? And if you do not if you are not used to the presence of your own company, if you're not, and I'm not saying that things aren't challenging, right? Like, obviously, like moms that I know that are working from home and trying to homeschool their kids and doing all of the stuff, like they're being tested. But I also know moms in that group that still get up early, do their sadhana practice, which is your meditation and their yoga practice, and then they start their day. And that's very much how I've structured my day. Is I get up early in the morning, I meditate, I do my stuff, and then the rest of my day is about working with people, serving whoever needs me. That's how my life has been set up by me, right? You know, but I think this is the time we are being encouraged to go inwards.
Oh yeah.
Inwards, and it's uncomfortable to go inwards. And I would think that your fourth sit was the hardest, because like my first sit, it was physically challenging too. I thought I was going to have a hard time with my hips, but it was my knees. And I remember on day 9, remember you do those hour-long sits where you're not allowed to move?
That's from day 4.
That's from day 4, but like starting on day 4, I started getting this insane pain in my knee, and I would have to sit through it. And then finally day 9, we're doing one of those sits, and I just felt like this pop of energy through my left knee, and it literally like went reverberating through my body, and the pain was gone.
Wow.
Like it never.
I was lifted.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. I don't know what was trapped with that pain, but something released. But because I wasn't constantly fidgeting to try to make myself comfortable, I actually allowed myself to sit through it and to release. And I would have these crazy sits where I'm sweating buckets and I'm not moving. And it's all because of this crazy energy that's like surfacing in my body.
Yeah.
And my fourth sit was really, really hard because that was 3 months or 4, October, November. That was 4 months after my husband passed away.
Wow.
And it was, I made myself go to Vipassana. Like I talked to my teachers and I said, you know, this awful event happened. Is it wise for me to come to Vipassana? Because I can't sleep, I can't function, I'm just a mess. Yeah. And they said, you're going to come here and you're going to treat it like every other sit. Yeah. You're going to take it moment to moment. And so I didn't have a car at the time, and I was sitting at the center just outside of Barrie, and I public transited / carpooled my way up there.
Wow.
And I get there, and this was in the old meditation hall, and they separate the men and the women. Your name gets called, and because I've done it so many times, I'm always in the front row. So I'm in the front row, and I'm waiting for everybody behind me. You know, there's like 30 women, 30 men. And finally, everybody's in the meditation hall. And I was in insane physical pain at that time because I wasn't sleeping. So my whole nervous system was like completely amped up. So they dim the lights, the opening chant starts, and I like closed my eyes, and like a split second, my eyes opened back up because I was full on having a panic attack. I was like, I can't be here. Like, and then I've got this other voice in my head going, you work so hard to get here. Like, it's easy to get here. You can't just go home. Like, you don't have a way of getting home. And the whole 10 days, I like cried so much. I battled with myself the whole time. I forced myself to stay. I did not quit. But that was what I needed to do because I finally started to sleep again. I finally started to like feel marginally better. And I don't know how long I would have stayed in the state that I was had I not done that 10 days. All my friends thought I was insane. They were like, you can't go do that. Like, you're not in a good state. I'm like, you have no idea what this practice will do. Like, it will transform me, and I need it. It's the next step in my journey. And so, I mean, I wouldn't recommend doing Vipassana if you've never done Vipassana and you were going through a really hard time. Like, that's not the technique I would recommend, but I had done it several times before, so I knew what to expect. I knew what to expect. I knew that it wasn't going to be easy, and I was willing to face it. Right? There has to be that desire.
Oh, 100%. But I would, on the other hand, suggest a Vipassana meditation to everyone on this planet. Like, it might not be the best timing if you are going through lots of challenges and struggles already, because it is already very challenging as the practice in itself. But I find it very interesting that your fourth session or your fourth course was also the hardest for you. For me, it was the last, mainly because I've tried going back last year and the year before that, and there's always something last minute that happened. Either I wasn't able to make it in, or, well, now last year everything shut down, right?
Yeah, we've been shut down.
So it's not open to us right now. But I do remember that fourth session, like, it was the same as you. Like, I was having, and that's the thing, right? There's no external dialogue, right? But there's no silence happening in there. We have monkey minds that are talking to us all the time. So the internal dialogue is very busy. And on the fourth one, like, it was the same. It was a constant battle between, I was trying to find excuses as to why I needed to leave. And then my other self was just coming back and being like, no, you're here, you're staying here, you're going through it. You're going through it, and if you feel uncomfortable, there's a reason, and you're gonna stop reacting, and you're gonna blah, blah, blah. And I was just in a constant internal dialogue with myself of why I needed to stay, trying to counter all of my reasons why I wanted to leave, right? And that's just usually a reflection of what happens in life overall. Like, at the end of the day, there's constantly going to be challenges and struggles happening. And if we're able to teach ourselves, and we're able to master our mind, and to teach ourselves to master our own mind, then when things surface that are uncomfortable, we won't react to them. Like, it's really what Julie was mentioning earlier. Like, if we react to things, if we choose to focus on things, it gets worse, right? And I think we all know this. Just think about a day where you feel like you're having a bad day, okay? You're just having a bad day. You woke up on the wrong side of the bed. And then as you woke up on the wrong side of the bed, you stubbed your toe on the corner of the desk. And then you go to walk and and you're already pissed. Now you're pissed because you just stubbed your toe and you're aggravated. And then you're like, okay, you pour yourself some water. It spills all over the place. Now you're even more pissed. And then, like, think about it. The more aggravated and angry you get at all those situations that are going to keep happening until you come back to yourself, until you realize, like, okay, you are perpetuating this right now. Just take a deep breath, smile ever so slightly on your lips, and maybe go sit down for 5 minutes or an hour, right? But definitely give yourself the time to come back to yourself and to relax, because the more upset you get, the worse it gets. And that's the whole point of this practice here, is like literally giving yourself an opportunity to train your own mind to not be reactive, right? To remain equanimous to whatever is happening, whether it is something that you really crave or it's something that you're developing aversion towards. Like, at the end of the day, it's a tool that allows you to create equanimity and create presence and awareness in your body, and allow yourself not to react. And that's huge, because you could use that technique and that practice everywhere, right? In any day and any situation.
Oh my God. I used to be so type A. I'd go into I remember I was living in LA at the time, and I would go into the bank, and there'd be a line for whatever reason, middle of the day, Wells Fargo, there's a line, I'm agitated. I'm agitated, there's a freaking line, right? I'm agitated in traffic. I'm just agitated at every darn thing. And one of the things I realized when I went to my first Vipassana was like, it's me.
Yeah.
It's me. It's me. I am the common denominator in all the crap that I'm getting agitated by, whether it's things that other people have done. It's my choice to react or not to react. And it's so funny because my mood is so even these days. Like today was the first day in a long time where I did my morning practice and then I kind of was like putzing around the house and I was like, I'm in a bit of a weird mood. I'm in a bit of a funk. I wonder what's up with that. Like I just got curious. I was like, what is up with that? And then I actually just did like some breath work, some tapping. Like I have different tools, right? Like I use meditation and yoga and tapping and breath work. And sometimes I just go outside and go for a walk with the dogs. Like I switch up the scenery. And by the time I was done what I was doing, like my mood had already shifted. But it's just having that level of awareness to recognize like, oh, I'm in this space. And then rather than piling on top of it and going, layer upon layer of like one complaint after the other and just getting myself into a worse mood, and just recognizing like, okay, I'm in this mood. And then asking, do I want to be in this mood?
Yeah.
Heck no. It's freaking Monday, man. It's a sunny day outside. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
I don't have shit to complain about. I need to get my mood back on track. Like, are you kidding me?
Well,
then I start thinking to myself, seriously, Jules, there are people that wish they had your problems. So shut up, get over it, whatever you think you're worked up about, and get on with your day like a grown-up.
Well, I think one of the key things you mentioned there was the curiosity. So it's like, rather than get upset, rather than get ahead of yourself, rather than make up all these things in your head, it's like being curious about why we're feeling this way in the first place. Because when you really think about it, and they mention it in Vipassana as well, is everything stems from a sensation, right? Mm-hmm. So quite often, when we're in traffic and we're waiting in a line and we're getting triggered, right? Usually that trigger, like, yes, there's external circumstances that are happening, but the actual trigger is whatever sensation that's happening inside of you. And if you actually take a few seconds to stop and observe, right? Observe how you're behaving in that moment where you're getting aggravated or triggered, you'll notice that you're probably not even breathing properly, or there's shallow breathing, or there's like fast breathing, or there's like some type of sensation that's happening from within that's causing you to react even more. So like you said, turning inwards and coming back to yourself and noticing and being curious about, why am I reacting this way? What are the sensations that are happening inside of me at this moment for me to be reacting so intensely or so aggressively, right? Mm-hmm. And I've been through the same as you. That's actually a trick now. Like when I am in a lineup, and rather than get aggravated, I just come to the space beneath my nostrils and above my upper lip, and I just start observing what sensations it is that I'm feeling there. And just like we did today, actually, at the end of our 45-minute workout. So I have an online community happening right now, an online monthly membership, and we work out 45 minutes Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays all together live online at 12 o'clock Eastern time. And 15 minutes of a stretch and meditation follows. So it's a full hour, but 45 minutes of working out and 15 minutes of stretch and more likely meditation, because I know how important that is, right? I know that for the most part, if people's muscles are hurting, they're going to take the time to stretch because they could feel it. But if someone's mind is hurting, they might not take the time to sit down and breathe through it and observe, because they don't necessarily know. Because if they're not connected and they're not present with themselves, then they don't even know that their own mind is hurting, right? Mm-hmm. So I know that the chances are people will take the time to stretch more than they'll take the time to meditate. So I know that it's such an important component of, overall holistic health. So today, at the end of the session in our meditation, I put a song specifically to kind of distract people's minds, a very meditative song. But before we went into the meditation, the whole goal was Anapana. So the first 4 days of what we practice in Vipassana, and it's specifically sharpening your mind and focusing on the sensations that are occurring below your nostrils and above your upper lip as you just breathe. And it's like you're not controlling your breath, you're just observing your breath. You're just observing the sensations caused by your breath, or caused by the space around you, or caused by the biochemical reactions that are occurring in that space. But you just observe. You observe without reacting. And you know, in those moments, it shows us how crazy our mind is, because we think we're observing for like 3 seconds, and next thing you know, you're down south, you're dancing, you know, some salsa, you're singing at karaoke night, you're thinking of all these other things, and then you catch yourself. It's like, oh, I'm totally not observing the space here. I need to come back, right? And for a lot of people, they get upset at themselves because we're taught to like beat ourselves down every time we mess up. Like, we've been raised in a society that's based on, you know, rewarding us or punishing us. You're either good or you're bad. You're this or you're that. It's not based on observation and feelings and needs and sensations, right? Like, we're not taught those things. So to be able to just take that time and teach yourself not to get upset at yourself, just to teach yourself that, like, oh, this is my reality right now. I followed my thoughts. My mind brought me in a whole other space. And now that I'm aware of it, I'm just not going to give it any power. And I'm going to bring my attention back to my task at hand. And, you know, initially, every 5 seconds, your mind is probably bringing you in another place and another space, right? And you constantly have to try and remain aware and connected so that you catch yourself and you come back. You catch yourself, you come back. And it's a game that you're playing at first. You're playing a game with your mind where you're like, I'm going to catch you a lot faster than you think I will. And, you know, the more you practice that, the more you're able to spend more time really noticing and really tapping into your actual reality. And the less you find yourself wandering and wandering and wandering, the longer you get to spend time present with yourself. And I think that that's amazing. So would you say that you do an hour of Vipassana per day in your practice?
I do. Well, yeah, because I get up early.
Yeah.
I get up early, I meditate. And then I do tapping and journaling. And then I usually get into movement, yoga. And because I've been doing your workouts midday, I don't do weights or anything like that in the morning. So I will do yoga. I'll go out for a walk and get some fresh air. So, I mean, I've kind of scheduled myself, like, the first hours of the day are for me. And probably for some people, they think maybe my self-care daily practice is a bit ridiculous, but I've designed it that way on purpose because I enjoy doing these things. And I also think that I hugely benefit from it in terms of my own level of awareness and how I can show up for other people. Like, I don't want to show up for other people tired, exhausted, burnt out, stressed out, and emotionally unstable. So, and I think it's just also because I've done meditation for so long that it is a regular part of my life. It's like me brushing my teeth or having a shower. And so I've built in an hour in the morning, and now I'm actually playing with a different technique at night, where right now I'm at sort of the 20-minute mark, but eventually it's going to be 40 minutes. And what I decided recently is that I have been relying on that morning meditation, but I feel like because of everything that's been going on, I need something at the end of the day to decompress and defrag my brain from. And so that's just a personal thing. And it's funny because, like, at Vipassana, they tell you to meditate. You're supposed to be doing an hour in the morning and an hour at night. And
minimum.
minimum. So that's kind of what their guideline is. And there's also this very famous Zen saying that says everyone should meditate for 20 minutes a day. Unless you're really busy, then you should meditate for an hour.
Yeah.
Because I'm very busy, I do that hour, and now I'm like, and it's going back to that whole curiosity thing, right? Because I know there are certain spiritual teachers who meditate for minimum 2 hours at a time. And now that I'm getting to that point where I'm curious, I'm like, okay, what would it be like in my body if I could extend my morning meditation to 75 minutes or to an hour and a half? Like, how would that shift my mindset for the day? How will that, because we're connecting to a different level of consciousness when we meditate. And so part of me is just so curious as to what, all I know is my experience with meditation has been that it's made my life richer in so many ways. And it's made me a better human being. It's gifted me. I think it's been sort of the thing that's unblocked me in so many ways that I'm able to have the abundance that I have in my life. So when I literally say I have problems that most people would just jump at, I'm not kidding. Like, my problems in the grand scheme of things, very minor, right? So, but I attribute that to my meditation practice and to my spiritual practice. And I'm immensely grateful for everything that led me to that road. And that's why I'm very, like, if I'm attached to anything, I'm attached to meditation, right?
Like, I can second that. Like, I have benefited so much in so many different ways. And even just like, I don't think it's an exaggeration when you're talking about your morning routine and spending that time for you. I think at this point in time, we're tapping into the mindset component, right? Where if you look at the most successful coaches out there, or just generally successful people, not even just coaches, but they all start, and that's one of the biggest things, it's your morning routine, right? Like, you have to adapt your morning routine to yourself and what makes sense for you. And most of these people, it's exactly the things that you mentioned. It's either meditation in there, there's exercise, there's always going to be mindfulness involved within that mindset period to establish a proper and positive mindset, right? Because the better you feel in the morning as you start your day, like the whole rest of your day, and you're like me, like your purpose is based on serving others. So you want to make sure that you're on top of it, right? Like, you have to be on top of it. And the best way to start your day sharp is by making sure that you address your own mindset. Your mindset's on top of it. You're able to get the meditation, get the exercise, nourish your soul, hydrate your soul, and, spend time with your loved ones, whether it's the pups or the partner, and then you move on with your day addressing and serving others. Like, that's wonderful. I could totally relate to that. I'm not as disciplined as you when it comes to my Vipassana meditations. I do meditate every single day. The only difference is I don't stick to a full hour in the morning. That is like dependent on my time. And I pretty much do the opposite of you. I start early in the morning with clients right away. And so quite often, because I'm a little bit more of a night bird, I end up going to bed a little bit later. So in the morning for me, I set myself up by waking up naturally, taking in some deep breaths, doing a few stretches. I have my space here in my room right beside my bedroom. And in my bedroom, I have another space with the salt lamp and a yoga mat where I do my stretches in the morning and in the evening. But I think what you said is exactly that. It's super key. It's about setting yourself up in the morning to move on with your day, to be able to serve everyone around you best. And then before we go to bed, like, I feel like we totally underestimate our dreaming patterns and our sleep, which is all based on repairing and recovering and helping us heal. So I think at the end of the day, it's just, if you want a positive and a strong mindset, you need to add meditation into your life. I would suggest having a look at the Vipassana website. It's www.dhamma.org. So DHAMMA.org. It's amazing. possibly maybe signing up for some of the future events that are hopefully going to happen, because it is so worth it. And if not, contacting Julie or myself, and we can definitely help guide you along more of a mindful meditation path.
Yeah, and the other thing I also want to say about Vipassana is that I consider it to be the purest form of yoga on the planet. So it is, all the centers globally are run by a donation-based service. So if you have the means to donate some funds at the end of your course, you can. If you're unable to, then that's okay as well, because the way that the whole thing works is there's, you know, for you to attend a course, somebody donated to the center in order for you to sit the course. And there's centers all over the planet, so you can go to the dhamma.org website. But I also want to say that one of the things that I appreciate, and I kind of want to end off with this, is one of the things that I do appreciate about your membership, since I am a member, is I love the fact that we do that 45 minutes of movement, and then there's that mindfulness piece. Like, so many people who are in the training space, it's just movement, weights, whatever, like crushing those physical goals, but not that intention. And even when you're training, you talk about like really connecting with your body, really being aware of which muscles are firing and connecting mind to body. And I think that's the thing that I've noticed that's very different a bit about you versus other people who are personal trainers and whatnot. And so, I mean, for anyone who's wanting to do some more movement, I would definitely encourage you to go check out Michelle.
Come join us.
Website, and you know, it's all online. So as long as you have an interwebs connection, you're good to go. And
And like you said, it's all of those components, right? It's bringing in the mindset with the movement as well, because it's a holistic perspective. And the name of my brand is I Love Balance. So do you love balance too?
So I'm just going to read our little end of show intro, intro. And then a little outro, yes. Yeah. So this show can be heard on Spanglish Radio Network. Her network is part of Spanglish World Media Network. Check out spanglishworld.ca for all news and programming. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and definitely live it.
Yes. Woo.
Thank you. That was fun. I can talk to you all day.
Same. Thank you so much.